You can't.
No, can't seek leave to somebody else. Brendan Burns.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I just wanted to caution the member opposite about talking up the benefits of recovery too much, because the experience internationally is that you should take a little time just to see how things actually do pan out. And one example of that came yesterday with the Electoral Commission figures for my seat of Christchurch Central, which suggested, and we're still trying to absolutely verify these figures, but 11,800 people had left Christchurch Central, relocated, re-enrolled in other seats. 9,700 had come in. But you can see the enormous impact that the earthquakes, which started just about 11 months ago this week, have had on life in our city. And when we talk about jobs in our city, let's not forget that as of September the 3rd last year, there were 56,000 people employed within the 4 Avs of Christchurch. I would be surprised if we have as many as half that number at this point. We, of course, want the rebuild to happen. We want the jobs to come back, and we know that Sarah is the entity which is charged with that. We all unanimously supported the appointment of Roger Sutton as the Chief Executive. Pretty unusual for anybody to take a $200,000 salary cut to take on a job in New Zealand or anywhere in the world, I suspect, but we do believe that he is the best man for the job, and I think it is perhaps the hardest job in New Zealand at the moment, and probably in a long, long time. I would like to comment on a few things that are still popping up for me as an elected MP, and one of them comes back to heating, as my colleague Clayton Cosgrove mentioned, and I'd like just to ask the Minister to give us some reassurance about the heating program continuing, because there have been signals that there was a first phase to get heating installed prior to the real onset of winter in May, but that things may be buttoning back since. And I, as recently as Sunday, was door knocking in Avonside area and came across a man who had lost 2 chimneys, was still waiting for a heater. So I'd like some assurance from the Minister that in fact the heating program is continuing at the speed, scale and pace that it was before, because there are still many thousands of people in Christchurch in the grip of what is still a pretty severe winter who have not got appropriate proper heating. I'd also like to ask the Minister to comment on the temporary accommodation assistance that is available to people in the red zone. We do need some clarity here. I was approached by a constituent, Sue Skeet, who now is living in Timaru. Her accommodation as provided by her insurance policy runs out this Friday, Minister, and she has been anxiously emailing Sarah, trying to get some assurance. The indications are that there may be an interim measure for her, but I think that many other people in the red zone would like to know, are they eligible for temporary accommodation? It seems to be precluded by the initial wording of what was stated when the package was announced on February the 18th, because it was then envisaging it would be for people who were returning to their homes. Of course, people in the red zone are not returning to their homes, and they need some clarity as to what accommodation support will be available to them. I'd also like to raise with the Minister the issue about the future of any remaining heritage buildings in the CBD of Christchurch. The Minister's initial comments back in February that we might only end up with 4 heritage sites in Christchurch Central City sparked me and some others to form a group called Iconic, which put together a list of 40 must-keep heritage buildings, the creme de la creme of the heritage sites across the CBD. And the Minister acknowledged that that was a reasonable list when it was put to him in April. Now it would appear we are down to just about 12 of the creme de la creme, the very best of the heritage buildings of Christchurch, are still standing. And I'd like the Minister to indicate what can be done, what support, what signal can the government provide to building owners to say we actually must keep some of these buildings for the future. The generations that follow us will look back on and judge us on this issue, and if the Christchurch of the latter 21st century is reduced to 4 heritage sites, I think we will be judged to have failed the generations that follow us. There is not a case to retain very much. Most of it actually has already gone. Much of it had to go. Buildings that were truly unsafe had to come down. but I think that we need some signal to say that some will be retained as a reminder of the Christchurch that proudly stood before.
The Honourable Jerry Brown.
Mr Speaker, I might make